Listen, if you've ever combed the internet for silly little scary games, such as Cat Scratch and Bloody Mary, I hope you don't ever come across the elevator game and attempt to play. Ever since I was a child, I had always been fixated with elevators. They were a fun contraption to jump around in, and I always was excited to take a ride on one of those mysterious stainless steel contraptions. But a couple days ago, my friends and I were combing the internet, and we came across a website that detailed a new game called the Elevator Game. Immediately, my interest was piqued, and I began to read further as my friends became more enthralled, considering I had told my friends about my fixation with elevators. Our dark dorm room was illuminated by the bright monitor's brilliant display. The elevator game? That's probably some shitty Snapchat challenge that some middle schoolers came up with. My friend Arthur was always a skeptic, but I understand, considering most of the challenges were dribble anyway. Well, you know, I've always been fascinated by elevators, I retorted. Maybe this challenge may have some merit to it. Well, hurry up and see the rules. I want to see what we have to do, and if we can do it tonight. What else do you think we're going to do tonight? Drink and play Smash? I want to do something new for once. The other voice came from the blue beanbag on the other side of the room. Of course Mike would be asleep on a Friday night. Well, nice of you to join us, Mike. Pull up a chair and we'll see the rules together, I said. After he groggily moved his beanbag to my desk to my left, I began to scroll down and see the rules of this game. The display listed the rules as follow. 1. Enter the elevator of your choice, alone. Alone? We can't do this challenge together, Mike said, yawning. I looked at him. I guess we'll just have to take turns then? I'm down. I'm sure this is just a load of horse shit anyways, Arthur said in between swigs of beer. Fucking buzzkill, Mike muttered. 2. Once inside, ensure that the elevator is equipped with more than 13 floors. Ooh, 13, so scary, Arthur said, waving his arms like Bela Lugosi's Dracula. Shut up, I quickly snapped. 3. After following 2, press the button for the 7th floor. 4. After 3, press the button for the 4th floor. 5. After 4, press the button for the 8th floor. This went on for a while, a code that equaled to 7482516 whatever that meant. But once I got to the 9th instruction, my blood ran cold. 9. When the woman enters the elevator, do not talk to her. A woman? The fuck? Mike was audibly unnerved, and his anxiety was quickly spreading to Arthur and I. It's just trying to be scary, but I gotta say I'm intrigued. If this got Arthur's attention, then this challenge might be pretty damn interesting. 10. Once the doors open, you have entered the other world. Oh shit. That was all Mike could let out. We were all silent for about 30 seconds, then Arthur spoke. Let's do it. There's the Marriott down the street. Thing's got like 30 floors. Isn't it like fucking midnight? You sure you want to go? We got class on like 2 days. I was pretty freaked out and I was just trying to get out of this situation. My mind began to wander as I thought about this other world and the woman. What the hell was this? Was this just some kind of joke? It has to be. There can't just be another world that's only accessible through a fucking elevator. Right? We arrived at the Marriott, which is a chain hotel that happens to be in my town. It was a towering building that pierced the thick nighttime clouds. Of course it had to look as scary as possible, but I pressed on with Arthur and Mike. As we entered through the carousel into the lobby, I immediately had the gut feeling that something was not right. The lobby did not have a soul in it, save for us. The TV was playing some movie, but the concierge was nowhere to be found. Probably in the back taking a break. Okay, let's go to the side elevators, because we might actually get in trouble for doing this, Arthur rationalized. We agreed and walked to the side where the gates parking guests are able to access the hotel. The hotel was completely silent other than the soft hum of a vending machine. We combed the hallway until we found a lone stainless steel elevator. It was pretty nice, considering in every horror movie the elevator is usually a decrepit, out-of-order hunk of junk. "So, who's going first?" I asked. "You. You're the one that even found the elevator shit in the first place," Mike said. He had a point. I was the elevator enthusiast. I should go first. I walked up to the button and pressed it, illuminating the little upwards arrow that was plastered across it. The elevator beeped like it was waiting for me. I walked in. "See you in hell, guys," I remarked to the guys as they nervously waved me goodbye. As I enter, I see 35 buttons. Perfect. Step 1 complete. I reach into my pocket and grab the paper that I wrote the code on. I inputted 748255168. At the final button press, the elevator began to move. My heart began to race because it was working. The elevator rang and the display read 6. It stopped and the doors opened. My heart dropped because what I saw before me was a woman. She was dressed in pure white with a red hat that only accentuated the brilliance of her outfit. I couldn't see her face due to the veil around her face that almost seemed opaque. Her hair was jet black, which was a contrast of her white outfit. She slowly walked in, the only sound being the clacking of her heels as she entered. I was about to say hello out of instinct, but my mind flashed back to the rule of the game. Step number 9. When the woman enters the elevator, do not talk to her. My blood ran cold, and I looked away from her. "Hey." Her voice was smooth as silk. "Excuse me, I need your help." It was getting increasingly difficult to look away from her, and the fear I felt inside was damn near unbearable. "Please, at least say something." I looked at her and didn't say a word. "Help me," she said. The elevator stopped. The display read 8. That meant that the ride was complete, and I quickly exited the doors as they opened. It was just another hallway, same as all the other ones inside the Marriott. What other world was this challenge talking about? As I looked back at the elevator, I saw the woman remove her veil, and I couldn't fathom what I saw. She didn't have eyes. Not like her eyes were caved out or anything like that, but there was just skin where her eyes should be. I was paralyzed in fear as I saw the elevator doors close, and I remembered the last instruction. Step number 10. Once the doors open, you have entered the other world. I began to walk through the hallway, wondering what was so different about this new world that I had walked upon. As I walked through the empty hallway, I had a realization that stopped me dead in my tracks. I didn't have a way back. I sprinted back to the elevator and frantically clicked on the button to go back down. The doors opened and I got increasingly woozy. The nausea was unbearable as I wasn't able to move. The doors opened and I dragged myself in, feeling increasingly weaker. I pressed the first button and collapsed on the floor. The elevator opened and I crawled into the lobby. Mike and Arthur were waiting there for me. "Hey, where have you been? It's been like 2 hours," Mike said, but it didn't sound like him. "You okay, Mike? You don't sound like yourself." "I'm good." His normally baritone voice sounded pitch-shifted up, and it had an uncanny sound I couldn't shake. The streets were completely empty as we drove back, and almost no lights were on, save the street lights. It was pitch black outside, and we drove in silence. As we arrived to the dorm, I couldn't shake the feeling that I didn't belong here. I wasn't in my own world. I'm not sure what to do because there are no instructions to escape the other world. How could I be so stupid? I knew this would be a good place to put this as a warning sign and call for help. Arthur and Mike have not been the same since I came back from the elevator. If anybody can help me with my own predicament, please. I want to return to my own world, and I feel like my innards are being torn apart. I don't feel real. I don't belong here. Update. Thank you all for your suggestions. I will document the return trip. If it's successful, wish me luck, as this is the only thing I have left. Save for my hope. Part 2. Hey everyone, I just wanted to let everyone know that I had safely made it back to my world, or what seems like it. The shit I saw will resonate with me for the rest of my life. Before I detail what happened, I'd like to thank you all for giving me insight in my time of need. even if you people are otherworldly beings, but nonetheless, thank you for your help. Sorry for this post to be unable to be uploaded in a timely manner, but I'm still very fucked up in terms of time due to my time in the other world. Other than that, I thank you all for helping me in this time of need. As I nervously scrolled through the many suggestions, I saw most of you tell me to try to look up the rules of this game. That's where I got to the bottom of this entire debacle. Beforehand, I want to apologize for not giving all the details of my feelings and thoughts when I was participating in the game. When I detailed my initial adventure into the other world, I was damn near hysterical and was only trying to give the least amount of context so I could get help faster. Now that I'm back, or at least I think I'm back, I will give every detail of the unfathomable experience I had on my return trip to our world. On the subject of Mike and Arthur, I intend to detail the experience with them as well. Let's get started, shall we? When I was in the other world, watching as the elevator doors closed, my sense of panic instantly flared throughout my body. It didn't feel instinctual like it should. The scariest thing that I noticed about this other world is that the hallway I walked through on floor 8 was like any other hallway, despite the usual whirring of the vending machine and ice machines that were next to me being completely silent. During my panic attack that I had upon realizing my own idiocy for not even knowing how to come back, I felt someone, or something, watching me. As I began to collapse, I felt my muscles failing me, and I had feelings of pins and needles running up my skin as I attempted to move, like the feeling when one is in sleep paralysis. When I returned to the lobby and I saw Arthur and Mike, they were not moving. Not like completely frozen, but more like an idle NPC in a video game, just staring lifelessly into the void. Only when I looked in their direction is when Mike snapped out of the trance and began to talk to me. Arthur, however, was completely silent, even when I attempted to tell them any recollection of my journey. The thing that disturbed me the most is whenever I even attempted to speak to the two, my throat would not let out the words. You know when you're in a nightmare and you want to scream your heart out for help? When the monster or what have you is about to kill you or someone you love, but nothing comes out? This was like that, and it was the most surreal fucking thing I have ever experienced. So I had to sit in pure silence. Wait, silence? There was no hum or sound coming from, well, anything. The world seemed to be on goddamn mute. As I sat, watching Mike blankly drive, I began to think about the game, and where it's supposed to transport me. The other world, the fuck even is that supposed to be? From what I could tell, I had landed myself in some type of bizarro version of my own world, like a parallel universe. Looking outside my window, the usually lit buildings of the downtown area were pitch black, almost like a blackout had taken out the entire city's power supply. The only things keeping the darkness from completely enveloping the car was the headlight on the front, and they barely did a good job at that. My stomach began to become violently nauseous, and I convulsed from the uncomfort. I felt like I was being ripped apart from the inside, almost like I was imploding. I bit down on my lip, knowing from habit that my dorm was about 2 minutes away. Thinking about it, how did I get inside this car? Why am I inside this car? Wasn't I just inside the hotel lobby? My mind thought back to speaking to Mike when he snapped out of this NPC-like trance. As he walked up to me, I saw him, but he didn't look like him. His usual short and stocky stature had seemed elongated, and his normally baritone voice seemed like it was a pitch shifted by a program. He looked out of focus, like his shape wasn't a shape that could fit my normal human perception. It was distorted in a way that made him seem otherworldly, like the third dimension would not allow him to convert from wherever the hell he's from. When we began to talk, I just somehow popped into the car watching the two drive in silence. Not like a teleportation or the like, but just like an instant change of scenery. Like a scratched DVD that skips to a new scene in an instant manner. Despite this, my mind didn't even fathom it. I just somehow happened to enter the car in my own perception. But the time skip barely came as a recollection 15 minutes into the drive. Wait, had it really been 15 minutes? I pulled out my phone and looked at the time. What came staring back at me shocked me. I was staring at my empty palm. There was no phone in my pocket, nor was there one inside of the car. As I shifted my eyes to the clock on the dashboard, I was met with Arthur's empty face. There were no features on his face, no beard, nose, eyes, mouth, cheeks, hell, not even hair. He was just an empty, smooth face. Despite no eyes or the like, I was still completely paralyzed with fear. He looked directly at me, made a gesture that resembled a phone, and slowly shook his head. I began to type into the search bar ways to communicate with people about paranormal events and such, and all signs pointed to here. I wiped sweat off my brow as I began typing up my post for some help. Why am I here? What the fuck? I was still in the car. How the fuck am I sitting here in my dorm? All I remembered was Arthur's face, or lack thereof, as I sat down, trying not to fucking break down. I looked at the post, and it had read posted 8 hours ago. 8 hours? I just posted it. My sense of place was being completely compromised as I stared at the fan on the ceiling. I looked at the comments about 5 minutes later in pure silence. The comments that were on the board were completely rational solutions to escape. Hell, some even sent links to rule guides. As I clicked on it, my mind became ablaze with pain as Arthur's skinless face was the only thing in my vision. I screamed as pain enveloped my body. And just like that, I was back sitting at my desk as if time itself was being manipulated. I looked at the rest of the comments and saw that I even made some myself. Maybe in a trance or whatever the hell happened, I was subconsciously typing. Despite this, I had my answers. I had entered the code to the elevator wrong. It was 748-25169, and I had entered 8 instead of 9 at the end of the combination. I began to think that this was the case, and it made sense that a mess up like this could send me to whatever this place was. I also saw others giving me advice to plug the code in backwards and do the game backwards to revert myself from this place. That was the only hope I had. The only hope for escaping whatever the fuck this was. In an instant, the hotel lobby was staring directly at me. It's almost like whatever was watching me or leading me along wanted me to come back to the hotel. Maybe it saw me as an intruder and was just trying to lead me back to my home, or had more sinister reasons for my instant return. The lobby had this telltale silence, and I knew I had to return. The paper in my hand had the original code, and it was written inverted as well. This was my only shot. And I knew I needed to take it or risk staying in this reality forever. I walked up to the elevator and pressed the button to go up. As the doors opened and I walked in, I saw Arthur's face out of the corner of my eye, watching. The door closed and I was met with the claustrophobic silence of the elevator. I began to enter the codes backwards, ensuring I input it right this time. 961524847. Right then, the elevator began to move. And right on cue, when the floor hit 6, the woman in red and white entered the contraption. My blood ran cold as she stared at me through her opaque veil. "Hey, can you help me?" Her voice was as silky as ever, but I steeled myself and knew not to listen. She asked once more, "Help me, help me, help me, help me, you son of a bitch!" In that instant, she looked me dead in the eyes, with her own skinless face being its own entity. She rushed over to me in what seemed like an instant and began to claw at me. My fight or flight kicked in, and I knew I had no chance but to fight. "Help me, help me!" She screamed as she clawed at my desperate arms, cutting them open various times. Pain erupted in my arms as blood began to drop at an alarming rate. I knew I didn't have much time if I were to falter now. I knew I had to do something, and my instinct led to the single most stupid but reasonable action I could have taken. I held her clawing arms back with my left hand, mustering all of my courage and strength I had left. I swung my right hand and connected with her smooth, skinless face. She flew back and uncannily caught herself and just froze. She was frozen like a paused shell. She just stared at me with the piercing eyes of nothing, but then I heard a sound. The only sound I ever heard inside this other realm. It was a cracking noise. and I saw her smooth, skinless face break open like an egg. But what it revealed under, I simply can't put into words. If there was any way for me to describe what was under her, I would, but I simply can't. It was truly otherworldly. My own mind was driven to madness seeing it. It was nothing. Nothing was inside her head. Now, I don't mean her head was hollow, far from it. It was filled with infinite nothing. In popular culture, we all come to agree that nothing is perceived as a black or white void with no sense of place. But what I saw was fucking nothing. It wasn't a color, it wasn't a plane, or had any cohesive shape to it. It was a distinctive woman's yelling. It was infinite nothing. She, or it, looked into my soul, and all I heard was a distinct wailing, as if the voice had been a mile away. It was a distinctive woman's yelling. After the screams ended in what seemed like an eternity, I saw the woman disappear, as if she was never there in the first place. I sat down trying to understand all that happened, but I couldn't fathom what happened for the life of me. I snapped out of my reverie by the dinging of the elevator, and I blindly walked out to meet an endless pit of darkness. I began to enter freefall, and looking back I saw a sight that was almost more bizarre than the woman. It was an almost infinite amount of elevators, all strung together in this black void. There were too many to even comprehend, but I could only glimpse as I continued down into the void. I had honestly wanted this nightmare to be over, and if what's waiting for me at the bottom of this void was death, I welcomed it. I fell for what seemed like an infinite amount of time. If this was hell, it sure felt like it. And just like that, I saw something. In my freefall, I saw a lone light that seemed almost unfathomably far away. Despite the length, it came into my view very quickly. It was an elevator. I began to realize that I was heading on a direct path to it. I screamed as I came into contact with the elevator, its hard exterior crushing all my bones in my body, killing me instantly. Wait, I'm not dead? I look at my arms and only faint scars have been left burned into it. My clothes looked tattered as I began to look around my surroundings. It was an elevator, and the display read 1. I just hit the lobby and the doors creaked open. I slowly walked out and saw I was in the lobby of the Marriott. I heard the doors close and I looked behind myself to see there was no elevator. Only a wall that had a promo for free continental breakfast in the morning for guests. What the fuck? Ryan, where did you run off to? Your slow ass was in the bathroom probably. It's been like 15 minutes, bro. Upon seeing Mike, I burst into tears and embraced him. Okay, you alright? Your clothes look tattered to hell, what happened? Mike seemed genuinely concerned. Nothing, man. I'll tell you about it in the car. Let's get the fuck out of here. Arthur ran up to us concerned. Thank God, he had his face. I felt normal in this world. The sounds were in full force, the hum of the AC, whir of the vending machine. It all came together like a glorious crescendo of noise. I was back. We drove home as I attempted to explain what just occurred. Sorry to say, man, but I think you had a bad acid trip or some shit. Mike was pretty skeptical, which was out of character for him. I, for one, believe you. You think elevators are gateways to other worlds, and then bam, you found proof. But where did the elevator you went into go? Arthur was very enthusiastic, unlike his usual cynical demeanor. I'm pretty sure he had an energy drink or something from the lobby as I had my adventure. The two went home about 30 minutes ago, and I'm left here on my own. All I want to say is thank you, from this world and the other world. Thank you for helping me come back to my reality, or at least something close to it. I still think about that elevator and the infinite amount of elevators I had found in that void. Was this all a bad dream, or did I find something far more existential than I can comprehend? Maybe I did find a true way to travel in between universes. All in all, stay away from this game. My frantic self telling you the rules in my previous post, disregard that. Just heed my story as a warning to all of you. Don't play the elevator game, because you may be trapped somewhere you can't fathom, or find something you don't want to find. But if you are stupid enough to do it, heed the rules and be safe. I can still see Arthur's featureless face in the corner of my eye, watching me, giving me silent judgment for my decision to cross over. Maybe this is my curse, to have this thing to watch my every move, almost as a guardian angel of sorts, or something more sinister. I don't really care what, as long as I'm inside my world. Despite this, I gotta go. I need to get some sleep after all this shit. Stomach's hurting like hell. Do not play this game.